Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Swamp Thing recap here on the channel. Last week, Abby came face to face with Alec in his Swamp Thing form, and she realized that it's actually him. The episode ended with Avery Sunderland murdering a lone man who was going to turn him in. Let's go ahead and watch this week's episode and see what happens. The episode begins with Avery disposing of the body. Clearly, this is not the first time he's done this. He lights it on fire and watches it burn. Two men are somewhere in the swamp, and while one of them tries to cut a tree down, a corpse falls from above and lands on the other man. They run away, and Alec walks out and stands over the body. One of the men works at the bar that Abby's friend runs and starts having visions. He thinks a snake has wrapped itself around his arm, and he starts stabbing at it with a knife. Liv watches as he's actually stabbing himself and eventually shoves his hand into the garbage disposal. Abby is out in the swamp searching for Alec. She calls out to him, telling him that she's not going to leave him alone. Vines crawl up the boat and start to pull her towards the shore. Abby sees Alec through the vines and asks him for a tissue sample so she can study it. He gives her one and tells her to make sure and let him know what he has become. He also warns her to stay out of the swamp because it's dangerous there. At her lab, Abby researches the tissue sample, and Dr. Woodrow points out that her sample is all wrong. It's either a plant or an animal, but it can't be both. She has him look at her work, and he asks if she's found this sample in the swamp. He offers to further research her sample, and Abby tells him that she knows he works for Avery and demands confidentiality if he is to work with her. Abby runs into Daniel Cassidy at the hospital, and he's still trying to figure out why she may be so important to him after seeing his tarot cards read. At the bar, Abby arrives just as they're taking the guy from the swamp's body away. The police are leaving, and Abby asks Liz what happened. She knows it has something to do with the swamp. The other man at the bar starts to hallucinate and grabs his gun, thinking he's shooting an intruder. Sheriff Jennifer Bills returns and tries to stop the man. Abby grabs a syringe and sedates the man after he scratches the sheriff. Abby heads back out into the swamp to find the source of what's infecting the people and causing them to freak out. As she walks through the trees, the vines peel back, and she comes upon the place where the two men found the corpse at the beginning of the episode. Finds the body, and Alec comes out of the trees. He tells her that she shouldn't have come here and that he feels darkness, but that it's been released. She tells him about the people who have been infected, and together they think it's a disease from the ancient corpse that is jumping from person to person. Avery throws a party at the town hall, and the little girl from the hospital is there. It appears that he's arranged to take her in for a few nights. Daniel runs into the fortune teller at the party, and she tells him that something big is coming that will change everything. She knows that he made some sort of bargain, something that holds him to the town. Abby and Liz head to the town party, and Liz tells Abby that she's done some research and that in the 1930s there were several instances of strange deaths where people claim to have seen their worst fears. Sheriff Jennifer Bills is at the town party and hallucinates seeing her son getting stabbed. She runs to his side as everyone watches her freak out on the floor. Abby arrives and the sheriff pulls her gun. Daniel runs and takes her out, but she scratches Abby's wrists in the process. Matt runs to his mother's side, and Abby tells him to get her to a hospital. Abby rushes out and returns to the swamp to find Alec. She begins to hallucinate and sees the moon turn red. Suddenly she sees a dark figure who starts to drag her across the ground, and we see that the dark figure is actually Alec holding her, though in her mind the man has lifted her up off the ground. Alec somehow takes the disease from her, and he staggers into the woods and goes back to the corpse and puts the disease back. Abby watches him do this, and then the corpse sinks into the ground. Back at the Sunderlands, they decide to keep the little girl with them for good, and Avery pays off the little girl's uncle so that they can keep her. In the swamp, Abby tells Alec that she won't give up on him, that she's going to find a way to help him. And the episode ends with Alec telling Abby that the darkness is coming and that he's scared for her. Another great episode, and I know I'm going to say this in every review, but I hate that they've canceled it already. This is just so much better than any of the DC Universe shows, and it sucks that we won't see any more. But anyway, I'm going to end this one here. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, be sure and give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week for another one.